Hi guys, welcome back to Hungry Geeks. My name is Ethan Digisman, and we're going to see another comparison right now of two of the best mid-range smartphones right now in the market. But of course, this is more of a focus story of a comeback brand where they are going back head-on-head on the mid-range segment with Huawei. Of course, we're going to talk about the new Huawei Nova 9 SE. I've been using this for the past few weeks and I was astonished as well in terms of its performance because for 13,990 pesos, it offers a 108 megapixel camera, a 90 Hz display, a huge display as well, and of course, Huawei's famous supercharge. This goes head to head with, of course, the mid-range smartphone of Samsung, which is the Galaxy A32, fitted with features that are really good-mannered in terms of the mid-range segment, but the concern is which one can give you the best in terms of photography. Yep, this is going to be a highlight more of a photography comparison between the two of what it takes to have 108 megapixels in your pocket for only a price of 13,990 pesos. So before we continue, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and of course, give us a thumbs up and support our channel to make us can grow faster. So with that, let's go to this comparison. Now, the main story of this video is really more on the 108 megapixel camera here on the Huawei Nova 9 SE. I know 108 megapixel might be astonishing. It might just be on paper, but let's compare it to a 64 megapixel camera from the Samsung Galaxy A32. Now, in terms of overall performance, we're going to tackle it as well, but this video is really more on the photography where you will see comparisons in terms of taking food, landscape, night photography, even for macro shots, where you will be able to understand and see the minute details where each and everything is more into upper standards. Alright, let's go. So before we proceed, let me just give you a quick rundown on the specifications of the camera inside the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Here we have an 108 megapixel main sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor. All of those are integrated in together into its Huawei's AI software that they were able to master and perfect throughout the years in terms of their image photography superiority. Of course, the main factor here is if you have a 108 megapixel camera, what is the advantages or what are the advantages that you will be able to get versus and 64 megapixel main camera, 8 megapixel ultra wide lens. Of course, the megapixels might be higher, but is it really enough to give more of an advantage in terms of numbers? Or Huawei was able to perfect in terms of overall comparison? So let's figure it out right now through the sample photos that I was able to take over the past few weeks. So for preference, all I'm going to have right now are more really a photo to be posted here or of course enlarged in full screen for your appreciation. All of the photos on my right or on your left are taken from the Huawei Nova 9 SE, while all photos taken from the left of my left and of course your right are taken from using the Samsung Galaxy A32. So these two smartphones, let's start with a comparison right now in terms of food comparison. So we recently went to a food buffet and this is some shots that we were able to take to. So photo number one, as you can see that here, Huawei was able to have more of an in-depth increase in saturation and a little bit more in terms of that kind of crispiness in terms of better saturation of colors and lastly contrast in terms of the food. But in terms of Samsung side, as you can see, the sharpness in overall depth in terms of the focus is a bit larger, but as you can see, the colors are a bit down-toned, or see, it's kind of pairing along with the leaves from the bibingka. And of course, from the right side, as you may see, there are some tiles that are color brown. I think what happened here is that in terms of overall AI photography, Huawei was able to detect that this is food. Also with Samsung, but the problem is in terms of color balancing, both Samsung wasn't able to catch up in terms of this kind of leveling. Because since this is a buffet, the direct light beaming from the lights from the hotel are quite bright and loud. So the problem is in terms of color balancing. You may see here in terms of Huawei Nova 9 SE, in terms of HDR, they had a little bit more of a problem in terms of that point. But overall the picture delivery, which one is more savory? For me, it's the Nova 9 SE. In terms of crispiness, in terms of color saturation, it's more inviting. The details are there, and of course, it focuses more on the bibingka or the food itself rather than the overall picture look that we were able to see more of Samsung trying to balance out all of the photos. Alright, so let's go to the next photo. Alright, next comparison is a bottle of kombucha. As you may see here from the left, which is the Huawei Nova 9 SE, it's a little bit tad brighter as compared to the right side, which is the Samsung Galaxy A32 in terms of photography. But as you may see here, in terms of level of details, readability of the bottle itself, the label, you will be able to see more details in terms of the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Additionally, on that part, in terms of overall vibrance, once again, Huawei was able to capture this part better. But on the other side, for Samsung side, as you may see, there are a little bit more of cloudy in terms of the clouds from the background or the foreground, which makes them a little bit more in terms of leveling the brightness itself. But this is easily manageable, and of course, in terms of the central highlight of the item, you will overall see the overall preference for near range and overall contrast better in the Nova 9 SE because it has that pixel binning technology of 9:1. That's the technology of having that kind of level up details without even sacrificing in terms of overall photo take up, and of course here, how fast can you take a photo. Alright, next is more of a selection of flavors in terms of the buffet. Here you will be able to see more of a little bit tad better in saturation of colors in terms of the Huawei Nova 9 SE. And what we like about this one is really more on the inviting colors and sharpness that the Nova 9 SE was able to deliver. Again, on the right side, which is the Samsung Galaxy A32, same as with the problem with the bibingka, I think the harsh light wasn't able to cope up with the HDR balance that they were able to meet and expect in terms of this kind of scenarios. Yes, it's an indoor lighting, but the problem is the management of light is already interfering with the color balance, contrast, and overall saturation of colors is flat. Alright, so taking from that buffet in terms of the dessert, I was able to take an ice cream, scoop it up, and also pour some caramel on top of it. As you may see, the level of smoothness, color inviting, and overall sharpness was able to be more on the side of the Huawei Nova 9 SE as compared to the Samsung Galaxy A32, which is really kind of pale. I think it's really more on the color or white balance temperature at this time that they weren't able to detect in terms of what's the proper color temperature to adjust or white balance to adjust in terms of this scenario. Since both have AI technology, Huawei was able to detect that this is more food. So the priority is more on having that center highlight on the food for better saturation, for better sharpness, instead of just understanding in terms of the overall photo where the foreground and background must be balanced. I think this is the main advantage right now where you have more pixels to play with compared to just the 64 megapixel camera from the Galaxy A32. More pixels, more data, more analyzation, better processing. Alright, let's go further more into not just food but more of indoor. So this is a photo inside the shop in terms of indoor lighting. Next is really more on the weirdness part for my side. This is a photo of a gallery inside the hardware shop where you'll be able to see more of fake plants because of the plastic build, of course. But in terms of overall, both were able to detect that they were more of scenery or greenery. But as you can see here, I think there is more of a concern in terms of lighting overall compared just to concern on the overall details and sharpness. Now, when cameras right now, especially in mid-range cameras, once you open it up, it has to analyze the the color temperature and white balance. So it has to analyze it fast in order to have the best frame rate in terms of taking a photo. Unfortunately, here from the Samsung side, I think the white temperature in terms here is really more on the leaning on the cooler side, so it wasn't able to get the proper white balance. So hence, it was coping really bad in terms of despite having very good fluorescent lighting in terms of white and cool. But the problem is the adjustment stage. So when I click on the shutter button for both devices at the same time, it's really more of a clear night and day difference, because you never miss a shot in terms of that moment. You really don't have to miss a shot. So unfortunately here on the Samsung side, it kind of struggled upon opening the camera app and then trying to change the color temperature or the white balance. So it kind of affected the overall picture sharpness and it became blurry as compared to the Nova 9 SE. Next, here is more of a picture of the Marikina River, where you'll be able to see more on the minute details that you were able to see if you look closely. The two photos are very similar alike, but the main difference is really the color and a little bit more of a sharpness for the leaves on the left side for the Huawei Nova 9 SE compared to the Samsung Galaxy A32. Now, when we zoom on the photo that was previously shown on the banner saying Kalumpang Road, where I live nearby, in terms of overall details, you will be able to see here two stories. One is the Huawei Nova 9 SE. In terms of zoom digital, it was able to take care in terms of better overall details in terms of colors. While on the other side, for Samsung side, it wasn't able to replicate the proper color. Everything is darker, everything is more of washed out in terms of the final detail, and it was only able to cope up in digital AI sharpening. But the main concern here is that the overall darkness in terms of the Samsung side might be a little bit tad unrealistic already. Alright, same here as on the far side of the Marikina River going to Eastwood from Pasig City. As you can see here, the details is very close to each other upon first look. But once you zoom in, the details from the river, from the grass along the bank side of the river are quite different. As I said earlier, Huawei Nova 9 SE is more saturated, better in overall details, even the mud. Okay, going further more into Marikina River is a little bit more of a statue that shows three fishes on top of each other and of course a mermaid on top. Now this is quite interesting, as you may see here. Again, Huawei Nova 9 SE has my preference in terms of overall taking photos. In terms of the details from the mermaid, there is a little bit of fighting chance from Samsung side in terms of the sharpness, but the problem is it's dull. As you can see, less pixels. When they zoom in, it becomes darker. Unless compared to the Huawei Nova 9 SE with the 108 megapixels, when you zoom in, you have more pixels to play with. It has that bounce of saturation, better in overall details from the level of the contrast and HDR. And of course, overall, the pleasurable photo, even from the foreground where you see Eastwood City, there are more details to see on the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Alright, before a night photo comparison, here first is more of a macro comparison. So here is the bottle of the kombucha in terms of overall macro using the lens of the Huawei Nova 9 SE and of course Samsung Galaxy A32. Now among the two, the better one in terms of color again is the Huawei Nova 9 SE. The details on the bottle is much better in management with the Nova 9 SE. As you can see, even on the holder of the cap, even on the below, the spikes where the original cap is holding is much better holding on the details with the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Although you will be able to see more of a gloomy, bluish tint with the Samsung Galaxy A32, overall details and presentation goes again to the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Alright, so going to the night photography, I'm going to show you 3 examples right now near my neighborhood. So this is more of a night shot taken using the Huawei Nova 9 SE. On your left is more bright and of course in terms of details, a little bit better in terms of the level of details on the building. As you can see on the San Roque Elementary School building on the right side with the Samsung Galaxy A32, details are a little bit washed out already. And of course, the lighting here is really more of an orange lighting because of the lamppost nearby. So as you can see, the one that was able to capture more of an accurate representation between the two is the Huawei Nova 9 SE. I don't know what happened with the Samsung Galaxy A32. I think they were able to just correct the color temperature to the preference of the device itself, but the problem is in terms of having that realistic look and feel, it wasn't able to replicate here. To post in social media, the one more inviting, especially in the signage of I Love Marikina, is really more on the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Alright, next here is really more of an interesting shot when you take a high megapixel camera on its night performance versus a 64 megapixel camera. So 108 megapixel versus 64. Here are the top 3 major differences on this photo that you will be able to notice. Number 1 is really more on the noise. There are really a lot of less noise on 108 megapixel because you are pixel binning 9:1, not just really like, for example, 6:1. So it really has that big difference in terms of compiling a lot more pixels, cleaning out the photos, that in terms of noise that were able to be reproduced is not really a concern here, especially that if you have stable hands. So as you can see in both photos, in terms of color temperature, Huawei Nova 9 SE is a little bit accurate in terms of the color, but the problem here is in terms of the glare. As you can see, the glare is really more of the concern. From the lamppost, as you can see, taken from the Huawei Nova 9 SE, it has more of a beautiful sphere in terms of overall glare on the lens flare. In terms of the Samsung Galaxy A32, you can already see the damages in terms of noise suppression, in terms of night photography here. Less light that comes into the sensor, it's going to have a hard time in terms of cleaning out the noise, and of course overall picture quality is going to be a bit tad darker. Now last one is really more of a night photo. Now dim darkness or really low light is a challenge for any mid-range smartphone. It was almost pitch dark in terms of overall light available, which is directly on the fruit cake itself, or fruit tart. Sorry. So here you will be able to see that Huawei Nova 9 SE was able to have more saturation of colors, better management in details compared to the Samsung Galaxy A32 in terms of its just overall photo taking. And of course, it wouldn't be a comparison without a selfie comparison. So the Samsung Galaxy A32 has a 20 megapixel front camera, while the Huawei Nova 9 SE only has a 60 megapixel front camera. But again, megapixels are not the biggest story here. It's really more on the management of pixels, plus of course how you utilize it. Aside from the mentioned features and of course comparison from the Huawei Nova 9 SE versus Samsung Galaxy A32, I have to also say that it's quite good in terms of overall video taking on the mid-range smartphone. Here you have 1080p video recording, but the most important thing is really more on venturing on the features itself. Now I was able to have more of the balance that I want to get in terms of taking a video, especially the dual video feature where the front camera and the rear camera are working both at the same time to give you more of a vlogging experience. I know this is quite a niche right now, but in some scenarios it's really nice and good to venture at. And it will be a really nice feature for, of course, mid-range smartphone users. And if you are looking to have more of an advantage for better light management, better details, saturation of colors, flexibility, then the Huawei Nova 9 SE is a good camera for you to have overall. Besides that, the Huawei Nova 9 SE has a Snapdragon 680 processor. It has good performance overall, that it can deliver punch-to-punch basis in terms of overall details and of course performance that you want to give in terms of a mid-range smartphone, compared with the 6.7-inch IPS 90Hz display on such a thin form factor, and of course it's really beautiful at the back. Plus the battery management on this device for a Snapdragon 680 4000 mAh plus Huawei supercharged 66 watts compared to the Samsung Galaxy A32 with a 5000 mAh battery but a very slow 15 watt charging only. Now I know that this is 1000 milliampere bigger than the 4000 milliampere size here on the Huawei Nova 9 SE, but between the two, a 4000 milliampere battery could give you more or less the same experience on a Snapdragon 680 compared here just using MediaTek processor. I was able to get almost a full day in terms of performance. So when you wake up, go home, you still have left of some juice and just charge up with the 66-watt charging brick, and you'll be able to go in no time. Now that's the wonder of it. It's able to have that Huawei supercharge of 66 watts and just charging for less than 40 minutes and you're already in full charge. So there's no battery anxiety compared here. Here, the Huawei Nova 9 SE has an 8GB RAM, 128GB storage. Same here with the Samsung Galaxy A32, 8GB RAM, 128GB of storage. But overall, even though that they are the same in terms of overall storage and RAM, I should say the Snapdragon 680 is much better than the MediaTek processor, which is kind of weird with Samsung that we went to a MediaTek processor with the Galaxy A32. Overall experience, I could say that this is a bigger smartphone, more slender, better in terms of overlooking details, and the camera is really a winner if you're really into a smartphone that is giving you the best photography experience for 13,990 pesos. So that's it for the comparison between these two smartphones. I hope that you learned a little bit more details in terms of what you have to look at on the details on photography, and of course overall the details that we are looking here in Hungry Geeks to give you that in terms of overall appreciation in terms of the comparisons that we are looking for as well. Hope that you like this video. Please give us a comment on which photo or comparison photo that you were able to see the best in terms of giving you that satisfaction between the comparison between the two smartphones, and leave us a comment down below and make sure you subscribe as well. So with that, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope that you watch our future episodes where we will really handle or tackle more on things like this, and of course the future of tech in terms of smart home as well. So with that, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Isa de Guzman and signing off.